animals. Okay. Both of these people, the Democratic Party is ridiculous for even like that is completely bullshit. Okay. Completely. Which is why if you ever find yourself, this isn't to say like the Democrats are good. Okay. They're not. They're bad. Having said that, however, if you ever find yourself in agreement with a right-wing narrative, whether it be trans panic, right? Like, oh, trans people are doing this, trans people are doing that, or whether it be immigrant crime narratives or immigrant narratives or crime narratives in general, or election security narratives, immediately knock yourself out of it because you have been duped, my friend. That's it. Okay. That's it. I agree with dropping out of NATO. Okay. Also duped. Donald Trump never dropped out of NATO. Donald Trump simply looked at NATO for what it was, a protection racket, and demanded more from the NATO partners. And not only was that such a profoundly good idea for Donald Trump, that Joe Biden also continued that policy. Okay. So the idea that like Donald Trump was ever going to drop out of NATO or whatever, bullshit. He claimed he would, but he actually didn't even claim he was going to drop out of NATO. He just said, give me more money. Our allies in NATO need to pay us more for the protection that we offer them. And that's it. And not only was that apparently not such a bad idea, that, the Biden administration also followed through on that. So there it is. Yeah, you think Donald Trump was going to pull out of NATO? I got a bridge to sell you, okay? That's not how this works. Neither party is actually going to dramatically reduce military spending. That's not a real thing, okay? It is bipartisan. It is one of the most important single bipartisan issues, okay? Both parties are backed by the military-industrial complex. NATO is directly a funder and facilitator. Y'all are crazy. This won't age well. What do you mean? You think like Trump is actually going to pull out of NATO? That's what you're saying? They would assassinate him. Like, what are we talking about? Like Bernie Sanders would never pull out of NATO. What are we talking about? That's not I just don't, like he was president for 4 years. He didn't do that. What do you mean? What are we talking about? Anyway, as long as the USA needs European soldiers for their wars, NATO is still going to exist. It's not even necessarily, no, it's not the United States it's not even the United States needs for European soldiers. Okay. That's not it at all. No, it is money. Okay. It is two reasons. One, you get to enforce control over all of these nation states. That's number one. And number two, it's money. You're giving them weapons. We're building the weapons. We're subsidizing the building of these weapons. Then we're giving them money to buy the weapons, or we're taking some money from them to purchase American weapons. That's a massive part of it. And Trump knows that. He's not that stupid. I mean, he is pretty stupid, but he's not that stupid. He knows one thing, and that is where his bread is buttered. Okay. This is why no American president is going to pull out of NATO. And that's not just my assessment of the matter. If you listen to like enough NPR, and I certainly do listen to a lot of NPR, even they talk about how similar the bipartisanship is, or how similar the foreign policy opinions are in general. There are some distinctions here and there. Donald Trump greatly accelerated in Israel in a way that no Democrat would. Okay. When they had the opportunity, they didn't do that. In terms of like moving the embassy to Jerusalem, permanently recognizing the annexation of Syrian territory, Golan Heights, or, nuking the Iran denuclearization deal and then adding additional sanctions on Iran. These were all like great extension. Like these were all above and beyond in terms of like how much he's up on foreign policy. And then there was some good in terms of his dealings in the Korean, South Korean, North Korean talks, allowing North Korea and South Korea to have the conversations on their own, and even de-escalating military drills in the surrounding region. That was actually a pretty solid thing that Donald Trump did, and that was actually one good and a lot bad in terms of foreign policy. Ultimately, though, neither party is actually going to dramatically change. Neither party is actually going to dramatically change foreign policy. The Afghan pullout was partially his doing. I know, but he never had the courage to pull out. That's what I'm trying to say. And to be fair, I don't think he would have pulled out from Afghanistan. Like, that's what I mean. Joe Biden is actually brave, bold, and beautiful for doing that pullout, doing that withdrawal. Respect. I will always respect him for that. I will never respect him because he lost all of my respect after he became the most unhinged genocidaire of all time. But the Afghan pullout was good, objectively.
Lost the last election.
I was told if I got 63 million, which is what I got the first time, you would win. You can't not win. And I got millions of more votes than that and lost by a whisker.
In response, Democratic...
Yeah, people were so mad about this. I saw that little Nazi freak, Nicholas Fuentes, also complaining about this. This might be the only time I actually show his ugly ass face on this broadcast, but does anyone have that clip? It was pretty funny because like Donald Trump rarely ever says he lost the election, but this was one of the few moments where he openly recognized it, like dead to rights. Yeah, but there is has he ever? No, I mean he's like made inferences to the fact that he is not the president and that he lost for sure. Here it is.
It's just because it's bullshit. They sold out. They sold out everything that MAGA represented at one point, and everything that it was is no longer. It's just really sad. And the 2020 comment, it's like, wow, that's how pathetic it's gotten. He's admitting, he says, "Oh, I lost by a whisker." So what was the point? Like, what's the point of any of it?
This is a neo-Nazi. His name is Nicholas J. Fuentes, for those of you who don't know. For those of you fortunate enough not to know, I apologize for assaulting your sensibilities by showing you the #1 booger-eating neo-Nazi in the United States of America at this moment. Kanye's friend, he has dined with Donald Trump, as a matter of fact, alongside Kanye West. Some more notable moments in his career. I will forever say, outside of Kanye West, like giving him a national prominent platform, fuck Kanye West for that, by the way, forever. There was another guy who was desperately carrying his career by consistently debating him and eating chicken and waffles with him, Boner Chelly. Every single person that is given this lifeline deserves all the worst things. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes debate lords end up inadvertently, or maybe deliberately, who knows, giving prominent platforms to people because they really want to debate them. Sometimes they even end up going all the way and censoring people, calling them a Nazi in your own community, for example, maybe in your subreddit. Yeah. Prominent liberal commentators. Well, not prominent, really. All right, let's continue.
You lost in 2020? Seriously? I mean, what are we even doing anymore? Then you're a loser. Then you're a loser. You just lost. Then you lost to Joe Biden. You deserve to be charged. If he admits that he lost, then that actually vindicates the DOJ charge against him. Because the charge is that he knew he lost.
Yeah, this guy thinks Jewish people control the world and denies the Holocaust openly. If you interact with him in any way other than disgust, you are nihilistic or equally crazy and racist. I agree. If you got one Nazi at a table and 10 people, you got 11 Nazis at that table. Okay, I do.
But he lied to defraud the people. That's the DOJ's charge. So why did we do Stop the Steal? Why did anyone go to January 6th? Why is anyone sitting in jail? Why did anything bad happen to anybody? Why did everyone get censored? Why is everything bad that has happened to the people that are involved, why did that need to happen if you're just going to walk it all back and say, "Oh, I lost"? Well, it would have been good to know that.
Yeah, because you guys are all dumbasses. That's why. You're dumbasses. Like, not only are you a Nazi, which automatically makes you a dumbass, okay, but you're so stupid that you personally thought in your dumbass mind, I guess, that like Donald Trump gave a shit about anything beyond his own narcissistic tendencies. Like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, of course.
Before 1,600 people got charged, it would have been good to know that before I had all my money frozen, put on a no-fly.
Given that analogy, what do you think about the Cheney endorsement? I already ripped into the Democratic Party so much about the Cheney endorsement and like even recognizing the Cheney endorsement. We'll talk about it a little bit further. That gives Donald Trump a massive W moment at the debate tomorrow night. If he just turns around and says like, "You got Dick Cheney's endorsement, He's responsible for the deaths of millions and bringing America into permanent war. You love war. I hate war. I'm the peaceful dove.
My list, banned from everything, lost all banking and payment processing. Would have been good to know that before I, in 2017, dedicated my life to this as an 18-year-old in college. Just feels like a big ripoff. And don't get me wrong, I'm an adult. It's not whining. I'm not complaining about it. I'm saying you can't say those things for that reason. Like, don't get me wrong. I don't regret anything, and we all make our choices. And look, it didn't work out. It is what it is. So I'm not mad saying I want those years back. I want those decisions back. I'm not saying that.
One of the funniest parts about like young Republicans is that they literally just like look 40 and 14 at the same time. Nick Fuentes is, of course, no different in this circumstance. But should we be worried about polls? I don't really follow them, but I follow Nate Silver. I mean, yeah, if you want the Democratic Party to win, okay, then yeah, you probably should be worried about the polls. If you're a liberal, we're going to get to that. Hold on, let's finish this.
I'm saying that just goes to show what a tremendous betrayal it is.
Yeah, I love that his issue isn't with reality. It's with Trump's admission of reality. Yeah, for sure. For sure. He's basically saying, why the fuck would you admit that? You're making us look like fools. Because you are. Automatically, if you lock down, if you put yourself out there, if you put your name out there, if you put your body out there, okay, for a guy like Donald Trump, yeah, of course you're going to get cooked. Of course you're going to look like an asshole because he's an asshole. In the simplest terms, he's just like a very narcissistic guy.
It is. It's just such a callous indifference to the sacrifices that his supporters made on his behalf. People are more willing, I think, to tolerate losing than a total betrayal. It feels now like the whole thing, and it wasn't pointless, but that's how it feels at this point.
He's still, dude, this is actually cult. Like, this is just being in a cult. Like that you're watching him bargain with the cult leader. You're watching him bargain with the cult leader, being like, yeah, this shit was a sham the entire time. And he's still like, oh, it wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a waste. It's like, why wasn't it a waste? He openly admitted that he lost. You're mad that he openly admitted that he lost, but you're still like, oh, but it's still not a mistake. Does Fuentes have any pull with the Republican fan base? Not really. I mean, he should have less than zero pull, but the fact that there's any pull at all is alarming. Okay, this is an out and about neo-Nazi, like straight up Holocaust denying neo-Nazi. Okay,
so I know everyone considers me to be an extremist, but I'm the logical conclusion of Trumpism from 2016. I was the Trump generation. I turned 18 when he became president. I was one of the first guys, one of the first influencers in the post-Trump world. And, I didn't leave the movement. The movement left me.
He ain't wrong. As a neo-Nazi, he ain't wrong. He is the logical conclusion of Trumpism. That part is not incorrect. The other part of this story that's obviously pretty funny is the recognition that he has as far as like, loving Donald Trump because he's like racist domestically, but also being a rabid anti-Semite. At least like Richard Spencer looks at Israel and goes, oh, I love Israel. You get to send the Jews over there. I want to have our own Israel, but for white people here. This neo-Nazi, on the other hand, is like, oh, I hate Israel. Jews control the media. Jews control every aspect of our lives. And then he's like pro-Trump beyond that. Okay. And it's like, what do you mean? If there's one guy in American politics that is more pro-Israel than Joseph Robinette Brandon, it's Donald Trump. Now, Donald Trump doesn't really give a shit overall about anything beyond Donald Trump and what represents his interests, but enough money has been funneled into his campaign and enough doors he has opened for pro-Israeli sentiment that like he's never going to back away from that position. Okay. First Sheldon Adelson and now Miriam carrying on the torch of like permanent annexation of the West Bank is so funny. They just like try to overlook that fact.
election lawyer Mark Elias, who works with the Harris campaign, writing, "We won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. We won't let him subvert the election." That fear about democracy, shared by a handful of Republicans, including former Congresswoman Liz Cheney and her father, former Vice President Dick Cheney.
Boo! Animals. Okay? Both of these people, the Democratic Party is ridiculous for even like spending 3.5 seconds on these endorsements. Okay? Endorsements are not going to get you a tremendous number of voters. Okay? They're not. These are both people who have zero constituencies. Okay? Anytime I hear someone in the chat was saying, Hasan, when I saw the Cheney endorsement, I was reminded of your rant. Does anyone have the rant of me talking about how Democrats love Republicans post DNC, like on the last day of DNC when it was popping off? That's what it is.
A once unthinkable move, the conservative former vice president now endorsing Harris, saying Trump can never be trusted with power again.
You have many Republicans out there who are saying, well, we're not going to vote for him, but we will write someone else in. And I think that this time around, that's not enough.
Oh, here it is. Only that actually hates Republicans, okay? The only that actually hates Republicans, okay? I'm gonna say it. I'm saying it, dude. I think Democrats don't hate Republicans as much as I do, okay? They love saying, oh, I guess you want to vote for Trump then. But like, dude, you don't hate Republicans. You want them in your party. You desperately advocate for them to come to your party. You literally have them at your convention. You have them at your convention. You have them come and speak at your convention. You literally have their loyal soldiers come speak at your convention, the border guards, the cops. Like, you love them. You want to have the Republicans. You want to hug the Republicans. You want to kiss the Republicans. You want to be Republican. You want to be Republican. You're just a Republican. I hate Republicans. You don't. You want to them and you want to suck them. Okay? So stop with this bullshit. I had to be whisper screaming because, unfortunately, I had to be whisper screaming because I was in a hotel room. The whisper yelling makes this 10-10 my favorite rant. It's just, it is what it is, you know? They love Republicans. That's what the Democrats love. They love it.
Enough that it's important to actually cast a vote for Vice President Harris.
Trump is now here at Mar-a-Lago. He heads to Pennsylvania for the debate tomorrow, and he is preparing more than he's letting on, holding those informal policy sessions with advisors, but also with former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, who challenged Harris on the debate stage back in 2019. Also involved in his debate prep, we are told, is Congressman Matt Gaetz, who has been firing questions at Trump on some of the tougher issues, including his legal troubles and his position on
When a liberal is abused, he says, thank God they didn't beat me. When he is beaten, he says, thank God they didn't him. When he will thank God that his immortal soul has been delivered from its mortal clay. Lenin. Vladimir Lenin. I call him Lenin. Some people call him Lenin. I call him Lenin. Comrade Kamala Harris and Vladimir Lenin. I've been a staunch supporter of Kamala Harris since Liz Cheney endorsed her. Yeah. Also, Bernie Sanders, how far you have fallen. What are you doing, Bernard? God, he is he is so servile to the interests of the Democratic Party. It's like, bro, you're done with your career. They're not going to give you card check, dog. They're not. Okay? They're not. You're 800 years old. Okay? What are you doing? They're never going to add card check. He literally thinks like, I think his calculation is, if I'm the most loyal servant to the Democratic Party, they will make me a junior partner once again. And maybe I will be able to, like, I don't know, put forward yet another policy measure where like I can bring 95-year-old Vermont citizens to Canada to go purchase their insulin, you know? Like, in his mind, he's like, oh man, we'll be able to get, if I'm the employee of the month for the DNC, they will maybe consider card check. Okay. They will not. They despise you, Bernie. It's fine. You know, I get it. Maybe on principle, like you're like, oh, I want to defend Kamala Harris, but you don't have to go this far. Okay. You don't have to go this far. You don't have to. It just doesn't make any sense, dog. You are literally, he's a politician, not a political commentator. It's his job to fall in line when the Democrats need him. Dude, I know that. I'm factoring that into the calculation. I'm a political commentator who understands the position or the predicament that Bernie Sanders is in. But even in that circumstance, you don't have to you don't have to do this. You know, this is not a grenade you have to dive on, okay? Like, it's just, what are you doing? He thinks I'll get card check before I will get like one crumb of like pro-labor policy in the administration so I'm just going to do everything I can.
Senator, before I let you go, I do have to ask you about her recent endorsements by two people who are not progressives at all. Of course, I'm talking about Dick and Liz Cheney. This week, they said they're going to support her. They're going to vote for her. It's worth noting, former Congresswoman Liz Cheney voted with former President Trump more than 90% of the time, was quite critical when President Biden picked her as his running mate. Would you welcome seeing Liz Cheney out on the campaign trail?
Like, Liz Cheney was like anti-abortion not that long ago. Like, how did we just like drop that? She is the daughter of a demon, okay? She's the daughter of a goddamn demon. She was literally anti-abortion openly, and I think she still is. Like, what are you doing? What are we doing? Okay? She has no constituency whatsoever. She cheered for the Dobbs decision. Her dad is even worse, okay? This man has also cooked Liz Cheney before. Taking national security advice from a Cheney has already caused irreparable damage to our country. We don't need any more thanks. I don't think this is Bernie Sanders tweeting this, by the way. I think this is Bernie Sanders' comms team tweeting this, okay? Key question for Elizabeth Warren today. Which American cities and how many American citizens are you willing to sacrifice for your policy of forcing the U.S. to absorb a nuclear attack before we can strike back? You know, Hasan, it's okay to defeat fascism just for its own sake. Defeat fascism? Dude, what are you talking about? Dick Cheney, straight up, and I mean this in all sincerity, is an infinitely bigger fascist than Donald Trump, okay? That's not even a question. Donald Trump's 4 years in office caused a lot of harm, okay? Both globally, but certainly domestically. And having said that, it still did not meet the George W. Bush administration. And this is something that a lot of liberals, I think, forgot about, because George W. Bush was like exchanging chocolate with like Michelle Obama. And there is this like weird, well, not weird, unfortunately, expected tendency of people to liberals specifically to like whitewash former war criminals and their background. Dick Cheney is responsible for the death of millions, okay? Millions, tens of millions of people displaced. The war on terror, domestic policy such as the Patriot Act, like these are all the Cheney admin. The unitary executive principle that Donald Trump took advantage of as well was like almost single-handedly written by Dick Cheney and his loyalists. What the are you talking about? Dick Cheney is literally worse than Donald Trump, okay? Dick Cheney is a worse fascist than Donald Trump. Whoa, goddamn. No, it's fine. It's all good. They're going crazy. Hi. Why does Dick Cheney bad mean Bernie should bash Kamala accepting an endorsement? No, Bernie shouldn't bash Kamala accepting an endorsement. Do you think that there's only two speeds here? Do you think that he could have just said something like, I don't really care about Dick Cheney or Liz Cheney? As a matter of fact, these are people who have caused irreparable harm to American democracy and caused so much destabilization globally. I do not care. I guess even they hate Donald Trump. Whatever. Moving on. You know? Drop it, honey. Honey, no. Drop it. No, that's not your bone. You're going to get into trouble if you take that bone. Kai's going to fight you.
Well, Kristen, what I think Dick and Liz Cheney are saying.
The only reason why they are not supporting Trump is because he failed at his coup where Cheney and Bush were successful in theirs. Yeah, that's another really funny aspect of Dick Cheney and like George W. Bush as a ticket to begin with, which is that like they did successfully pull off what Donald Trump failed to do in Florida. So like that's the other part that liberals have, I guess, forgotten, which is denying American democracy from happening when they stole the election in 2000, which is why it's like, God, liberals have no coherent worldview. It is very frustrating to have to consistently deal with this idiotic nonsense on a regular fucking basis. That's why I go back to the same principle. It's like, I hate Republicans. You don't, okay? If you find yourself being like, well, I don't understand. Why is this such a big problem? Like, what the f do you mean? It's like, dude, did you forget? Like, these people you over. They ruined your life. They ruined American lives, okay? It's so stupid. It's so stupid. They did the January 6th thing without actually doing January 6th. They did lawfare and were able to successfully pull it off. Actually, they did do January 6th in the same exact way. They had the Brooks Brothers riot. That was January 6th, but in Florida. What the f are we talking about? They literally did do January 6th, just in Florida, okay? Oh my God. Oh my God. They were just more competent back then. That's it. And the guys that did January 6th are now on the Supreme Court of the United States. Obviously, the Supreme Court of the United States, even back then, actually funded and helped the Brooks Brothers riot from actually even taking place, okay? So did Jeb Bush, governor of Florida at the time, brother of George W. Bush. Oh my Lord, oh my Lord, oh my Lord, oh my Lord. It is so weird. It is so odd. Why be upset about that when you can blame third-party voters as to why Al Gore lost? Yeah. George W. Bush competent? Yes. The George W. Bush Republican Party was more competent than the Trump Republican Party. Is true.
Is that in this existential moment in American history, it's not just issues. Cheney and I agree on nothing, no issues. But what we do believe in is that the United States should retain its democratic foundations.
Does Cheney agree with that? Does Dick Cheney believe that? Are you insane? Bernie, you were there, okay? First of all, you were there when America was invented. You were there when racism was invented. And you, of course, were there when Cheney definitely did not care about that at all. You should know better. He does not care about preserving American democracy. Oh my God, Bernie Sanders. What are you saying, Bernie Sanders?
And it's not just Cheney. I think there is a significant number of Republicans who say, well, you know, I may not agree with the vice president on this issue or that issue, but I cannot support somebody who's a pathological liar, somebody who fomented a insurrection to overthrow the election return. So I applaud the Cheneys for their courage in defending democracy. Obviously, on all the issues, we have very different points of view.
All right. Including defending democracy. What is happening? Oh my God. Dude, he got hit with the stroke gun. Remember when he was running? He got hit with the stroke gun. It's the Fetterman stroke gun. Remember, he had a stroke too, okay? And noticeably more pro-Israel after that, and noticeably pro-establishment after that. I think the CIA got to him, okay? I think the CIA stroke gun that makes you more pro-Israel and pro-establishment Democrats got him, okay? Yeah, he had a heart attack during the campaign, if you remember. And this came out of that heart attack like harder than ever, which was crazy. It was actually shocking how with it he was post that heart attack. It turns out the CIA heart attack gun got him and made him even more pro-Israel and made him even more pro-establishment Democrat. Anyway, God, they're gonna rip Kamala to shreds, dude. Hasan, stop doing Bernie like that. You know he means even extremists like her actually voting for Kamala. Despite disagreeing with her, it's a good point to make overall to show how bad Trump is. Adolf Hitler, okay? Adolf Hitler. Wow, even Adolf Hitler thinks Trump is bad. Is not the argument that you think you're crafting, okay? Dick Cheney is worse than Donald Trump. This does not mean Donald Trump is good. It just means that's how bad Dick Cheney is. Please stop. I'm losing my mind, dude. General election poll from Skibbity Strategies Hawk to a polling. Thanks, chatter, you dingus. Anyway, we're going to get to the polls and how not good the polls are looking currently.
Nominee Kamala Harris and Republican nominee Donald Trump.
Is Dick Cheney worse than Adolf Hitler? No, of course not. Okay. No, Dick Cheney's not worse than Adolf Hitler. But in modern day leadership, in modern day American leadership, Dick Cheney is probably, and George W. Bush, like the George W. Bush admin, the GWB admin, probably, I would say, is the worst American presidency of all time. Okay. Like it's pretty, like in modern American history. Okay. Reagan, and I guess Reagan's probably worse. Reagan's worse because Reagan's also like really, dude, these are guys who crafted legal torture memos. Like, what are we talking about? They objectively were like, we're evil, dog. We love being evil. They created the most intricate mass surveillance of domestic and foreign mass surveillance strategies. Like, America is a surveillance state directly as a consequence of post 9/11 initiatives that, you know, the GWB admin put together. Mind you, Dems praise both administrations. I don't want to even. Yeah, I just. Oh my God. Let's just continue.
Tomorrow,
I don't want to think about this anymore.
Our up-to-date CBS News Battleground Tracker
pee.
shows an extremely tight race in 3 crucial states. That's Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. Weijia Zhang is in Pittsburgh with the Harris campaign.
Vice President Harris emerged from intense debate preps twice over the weekend for a Sunday stroll with her husband.
Are you ready, Madam Vice President?
Ready. And to visit a local store.
And we are all in this together.
Yes, we are. Harris is using extended mock debates to sharpen her case against Trump, while his sessions have been informal, according to sources familiar with their strategies.
It's time to turn the page on the divisiveness. It's time to bring our country together.
Rallying supporters in Wisconsin on Saturday.
We have the dumbest leaders in the history of our country.
Trump said the debate would reveal Harris is, quote, stupid, also taking aim at President Biden.
He is the worst president in history. She will be worse than him. She will be worse than him. And Trump is never wrong. I am never, ever wrong.
In a Truth Social post this weekend, Trump falsely claimed there was rampant cheating in the 2020 election and could be more in 2024. When I win, he wrote, those people that cheated will be prosecuted, which will include long-term prison sentences.
It's unhinged. It's anti-American. And guess what? We are not afraid.
But Trump has a new faux-turned friend who says she's ready to campaign for him. Former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley.
He knows I'm on stand.
Yeah, we got it. Oh my God. Dude, I told y'all, dude. Yo, this shit's so funny to me. I told you. The liberals back then were like, you don't understand. Nikki Haley could be a really valuable ally to the Democrats. I was like, nope, she's going to fall in line. They always do. They always do. Oh no. Oh no. What happened? What happened? I thought this was a big constituency. I thought there was a lot of Never Trump Republicans out there that were just going to go out and vote in incredible margins, dude. What's going on? Oh man, I'm shocked, dude. I'm shocked. How could this have happened, dude? How could this have happened?
And I don't agree with Trump on everything, but I agree with him on a lot of the policies. I don't know that I agree with Harris on many policies at all.
Though Harris has picked up the endorsements of former Vice President Dick Cheney and his daughter, former Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney, who called Trump a threat to the Republic.
The Republicans have nominated somebody who is depraved.
Our new poll also shows that when it comes to voters being excited about their candidates, Harris outperforms Trump in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. After the debate in Philadelphia on Tuesday, both candidates plan to flood the battleground states. In fact, Harris has announced she plans to be right back here in Pennsylvania on Friday. Gail?
Yep, the countdown is underway. Thank you very much, Weijia.
On Washington Bureau Chief Political Director Rick Klein. He's also at the debate site in Philadelphia. Rick, the polls show this race is so close.
Good morning, George.
I personally know old white women, former Bush voters turned Democrat for Biden. Yeah, no, I'm not saying they don't exist, but that's not how you win elections, okay? That's not how you win elections, dog. That's not how this works. Ooh, so good. So freaking good.
Yeah, close race by some measures, gotten even closer in recent days. The latest 538 polling average has come.
Guys, why is it getting closer? I don't understand. Why is it getting closer and closer? I just don't understand. Sorry, I'm also like ordering food early because I'm already hungry. This is not good. Why is it? Why is it this race keeps getting closer and closer, chat? I don't understand.
Kamala Harris up by less than 3%.
Everyone was celebrating at the DNC. It's just shocking. It's shocking. How did this happen? Who could have foreseen this? Who could have foreseen this? I just don't understand it. What the hell's going on?
percentage points against Donald Trump. And the story in the battleground states is just as tight. Right now, Harris leading in 5 of the 7 big battlegrounds, but it is a tight race in all of them, including right here in Pennsylvania. Check this out. Harris up now by less than 1 percentage point in the polling average. That's essentially a toss-up in the biggest and almost certainly the most important of the battleground states, George.
And right now, Vice President Harris actually, even though she's been vice president for 4 years, not all that well known.
Yeah, this is really striking from the latest New York Times Siena poll, which had Trump leading by 1 point. Almost a third of voters overall, 28%, said they need to learn more about Kamala Harris and her positions before deciding how to vote. That compares to less than 1 in 10 voters, 9%, who say the same about Donald Trump. And another important point, in that same polling, right now we see that almost half of Americans consider Kamala Harris to be too liberal in her positions. Less than a third of Americans say the same about Donald Trump on the other side.
Dude, it almost feels like that's perhaps because Donald Trump keeps saying Kamala Harris is a commie, okay? Whereas the Democrats have no counter message for Donald Trump's insane, unhinged, anti-immigrant sentiment because they've locked themselves down with a right-wing slant on immigration. Now, of course, when you do that, when you adopt the underlying principle that like undocumented migrants are doing crime, okay? Undocumented migrants that are doing crime, when you also, recognize that, even though it's a false narrative entirely, okay? You don't counter message against a policy that Donald Trump is posting, which is basically Hitlerian, okay? Concentration camps and mass deportation of all migrants living on U.S. soil is Hitlerian policy. But I haven't heard a single peep from the Democrats at all on this issue. So when you don't say that, when you don't counter message against that, which is like Donald Trump's signature policy right now that he's running on, then yeah, of course, people are not going to assume that Donald Trump is too conservative. That's it. Because people are stupid, okay? People are stupid. Donald Trump is once again able to craft himself. Why are you kind of rooting for Trump? Because the Democrats are also moving to the center. Don't you think it's a good thing that both parties are coming to the center? That reduces the polarity. I'm not answering these stupid ass questions ever again, dude. I'm done. I'm done talking to centrists. I'm done. We're done. We're not having that. We're not having that today. I don't want to get mad. I keep getting mad for no reason. It's just like ruining my day.
That he is too conservative. At the same time, this polling suggests that people want to see a sharp break from the Biden administration. So it all makes for a couple of major challenges for Harris going into tomorrow night. She has to define her positions and also potentially define how she has moderated her positions and broken from Biden, even though she is serving as his vice president. That's a lot to get done in one night and beyond, George.
Anyway, Democrats are not counter messaging against Donald Trump being an insane person. Donald Trump gets to be able to present himself as a peaceful dove. That's number one. Donald Trump also doesn't have any counter messaging that shows him as like a psycho on the issue of immigration, which is his number one policy. Democrats have also moved to the right on immigration. So all of a sudden, that magically makes the issue of immigration and mass deportation not such a scary policy at all. It's one that is welcomed by 60% of the American population. Democrats see those polls. They think, oh God, we shouldn't say anything. They dropped this vid, saw it go super viral and get good press, then never did it again. The only thing that might be able to explain their media strategy is that they just don't want to work. Yeah, I think that, this was like boring overall, but I think it like humanized both of the candidates, I guess, for people that do care. I don't really think that this is that big of a deal. What I do think is a big deal is the amount of momentum and the amount of positive coverage Kamala Harris got by not being Joseph Robinette Biden, the amount of momentum and enthusiasm that swung in her direction that genuinely changed the trajectory of the race. Okay, the race went from Joseph Robinette Brandon losing the race to Donald Trump to Kamala Harris actually potentially winning the race against Donald Trump. And since then, it seems like since the Waltz pick especially that carried more of that momentum, they have been desperately trying to be like, no, we are literally Joe Biden. I promise you we're Joe Biden. I beg you to understand this is the Joe Biden ticket. You love Joe Biden, right? You love Joe Biden a lot. We are Joe Biden, which is very weird. I've been saying this for months. Kamala Harris had momentum because she wasn't Biden. Now that she spent most of the post-Tim Walz VP pick cycle running as though she is Biden, she's losing that momentum. And the funniest part about this is that just like the Democrats dropped the New Deal Democrat era, the New Deal Democrat policy making, both with Carter and beyond, okay, especially in the post-Reagan world, they're doing that shit again. Yes, I have this ready to go as well. Harris's debate challenge, pushing ahead without leaving Biden behind. Okay, that's dumb as she should literally drop Biden. She should drop Biden. She should push Biden off the staircase if she has to. You are stupid if you don't recognize that that is what the people want. Like, there are so many aspects of Joseph Robinette Brandon's administration that Kamala Harris genuinely benefited from, like, seemingly not being a part of, despite the fact that she was the vice president. The entire time, the Donald Trump candidacy has been actively trying to tie her now to the Joseph Robinette Brandon administration, despite the fact that she was like a lesser known VP who was just like running around doing all the shittiest jobs that you could possibly do, including serving the top of the hour ad breaks. Okay? Because at the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break. If you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe. A reality that Kamala Harris is very aware of. Okay? If you no longer want to see those ads, you can subscribe for $6 or for free with a Twitch Prime. You bastard. Hell yeah. Here's a 3-minute ad break now. People see her race and gender and think she's more progressive. That initially worked both ways. Young and progressive voters were excited and more conservative voters were opposed. As time has gone on, the right wing sees her gender and race and continues to oppose her, but progressives see her running to the right on policy and stop liking her. She managed to walk the path of defeat. Exactly. Always expect the Democrats to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. Okay? Always. They will always do it, and they're doing it now. What did I tell you? I said Kamala Harris needs to activate, okay? Needs to activate the Obama 2008 coalition of voters. She needs to go progressive, and she needs to motivate younger voters. She needs to motivate more progressively minded voters, the voting blocks that were leaving Joseph Robinette Brandon behind. Because Joseph Robinette Brandon's projected path to victory relied on college-educated white voters, okay? It relied on old conservative former Republican Party voters swapping out for the Brandon ticket. Some of those people are not going to turn around and vote for a black woman, okay? That is a reality. That is a reality. These were not like Biden loyalists. They simply saw Donald Trump as a issue, okay? And this dramatically changed the legislative trajectory of the Democratic Party because they were just like, oh, we are now Republican. We are officially, openly the Republican Party. We are the former Republican Party. As the Democratic Party, we are now the former Republican Party, okay? If you love the former Republican Party, come vote for us. The funny thing is they pick Walz because he was good on TV and are now scared to actually have a policy agenda and defend it. That is what is genuinely frustrating. I thought that they would have recognized, that Tim Walz was going to lock them into progressive policies and defending those progressive policies. That's why I thought that pick was consequential. That's why I thought that pick was meaningful. And now, where the fuck is Tim Walz? They're making him do radio slots in Minnesota, man. They're making him do radio interviews, bro. I called this. Can I be streamer now? My job is boring. It's insane how well she was doing when she was going by her instincts, and now that she's listening to Biden campaign losers, she starts falling off. Pathetic. Yeah, they just don't want to win. That's it, dude. There's no other rhyme or reason for the way that they have been behaving. They just don't want to win. I don't know. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I just, like, it doesn't make any sense. Why do Democrats want to become politicians if they actually do progressive things? What? The Biden people are so goddamn stupid. Okay. There's not a single reality where Minnesota won't be blue, which is even funnier. I mean, Tim Walz is phenomenal for the blue wall Rust Belt. Okay? He's great. He's great for that. Literally just ship his ass, make his ass do a circle, okay? From Western Pennsylvania all the way to Idaho, okay? And just rinse and repeat. Make him run circles in that region. That's it. From this moment all the way till November 5th, make him just throw his ass out there, make him, you mean Iowa? Sorry, Iowa, sure. Whatever. The entire area, the entire Rust Belt region, he should just be spinning around. He should be spinning the block. Okay? Go to goddamn Wyoming, dude. That's all I'm saying. He's been nominated VP candidate, so just do it. They can't remove him. Yeah. Make him do tricks. Okay? Make him do tricks on it. Make him run around and do the yokel shit. That's all you got to do. That's it. I understand why it's hard to do, but Harris needs to find some ways to separate herself, not just in the vibe terms, but in some real policy terms from Biden. Yeah, here it is. Do you think the next president should represent a major change from Joe Biden, a minor change, or no change from Joe Biden? Minor change at 32%, no change at 3%, major change at 63%. This doesn't seem really good for the incumbency, doesn't it? It almost seems like the incumbent advantage is gone, okay? It's gone. And we knew that already because Biden is no longer running for president. Why is he no longer running for president? Because the Democratic Party recognized. The Democratic Party recognized that Biden had no pathway to victory. Do you think Kamala Harris represents change or more of the same? Is that a major change? And then there's a follow-up. Is that a major change or a minor change? Okay. 56% of people asked said more of the same. 25% said major change. 15% said minor change. 56% said more of the same. And that number is going to increase the more she comes out and says, I am basically Joe Biden, but younger and a black woman. Okay. If she keeps doing that, she's cooked. I have not stopped pushing this argument over and over and over again. Okay. It's not just about Gaza. It's across the board. That's why every time I see Biden on the campaign trail, I'm like, what the f- are we doing? I don't know how many fucking times I've talked about it from this point on since the swap out. Okay. I don't know how many times I've tweeted about it at this point. And I also told you that the Democrats, when I went to the DNC and I saw the vibes and I saw how excited people were, how much they were doing victory laps as though they had 10 points on Trump in Pennsylvania or some shit. Okay. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what the f- are these people doing? What are they doing? What are they doing, man? They're out of their goddamn minds. Not sure why the big deal. She's performing exactly what is to expect. Anywho, if she were to get in office, we, the people, didn't pick her in the first place. Her entire policy page was a copy-paste Biden-Harris platform. She's running back into the cold embrace of a dead campaign that literally led her to becoming the nominee. It doesn't make sense, okay? It literally does not make sense. Why doesn't it make sense? Because Kamala would not be running for president right now as the candidate if the Biden campaign was doing great, okay? So the very reason why you're running should cause you to understand that, like, people denied the Biden administration a second term. They didn't want it. These poll results reflect that reality. So what the f- would you go, well, let me go back and hug the campaign that was so bad, that it led me into becoming the face of the candidacy. If this trajectory continues, and for the record, I will say this, if this trajectory continues, and it seemingly is going to continue with no real changes, no real differences, okay, this race is no longer a lock for Kamala Harris in the way that I said it was, okay? And I don't think she's going to change anything during the debate because she has shown you time and time again since the Tim Walz pick, she has shown you time and time again that no, this is the nothing will fundamentally change ticket, okay? Today's numbers after some further mediocre new polling for Harris lead down to 2.3 points in our national average after a peak of 4.3, which wasn't enough anyway. It has to be plus 5 regardless. The debate is well timed for her, at least in terms of having a chance to regain that momentum. But basically, the mediocre new polls like New York Times and Pew are landing exactly where our model thought they would after Harris got very little convention bounce. So that convention bounce adjustment y'all were complaining about is looking fairly prescient. They should hire you for real. You say something and people call you and say names, then time passes and bang, you were right. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Me being right, but too early to the game is honestly significantly fucking worse than me being wrong consistently, but in favor of what the Democratic Party is pushing for. Nobody gives a people don't care. People don't want to be people just don't want someone to tell them like you're wrong. Okay. The feelings that you have right now The feelings that you have currently are just wrong. They're incorrect. They only remember how embarrassed they felt in that moment when Streamer Man told them that they were wrong. Okay? And when they are proven to be wrong, they still remember that feeling, and maybe that feeling gets even worse. So they consistently develop even more resentment. I have a huge problem with Nate's cockiness here. He's not only adjusting all the polls in Trump's favor by 2% after the fact because of the convention bump, but also adds all the right-wing flood polls that with odds in 2022 and weighs them higher than neutral polls. And then New York Times and Pew both weigh an environment of 4 to 5 points right at 2020. Polling is broken. Rant. This part is not wrong. You're not wrong. But the reason why pollsters are doing this is because Donald Trump does have a capacity to outperform the polls historically, both in 2016 by even larger margins, but in 2020 as well by at least 2 to 4 points. That's the reason why they're adjusting for it. There's a reason why pollsters are adjusting for it, not because they're like in the tank for Donald Trump and they love Donald Trump. Obviously, there isn't like this massive conspiracy. They just don't want to get it wrong. Their job is to literally try and adequately analyze the situation with the highest accuracy possible. So if consistently Donald Trump has the capacity to activate non-voters that are not represented in polls with regular frequency and has been able to do that in 2016 to obviously cause like a massive collapse of the confidence that people had in polls, and even in 2020 when he was able to activate enough non-voters, especially because like it was really difficult to figure it out during COVID. I will give him that, and they were pretty close regardless, but Donald Trump still ended up outperforming the polls in 2020 as well. That's the reason why they're overcorrecting in this regard. The 2 to 4 points does not account for consistent Democratic overperformance since Dobbs, a position people consistently point to Trump for. They're consistently using R+3 to R+5 samples, despite the fact that the general electorate has shifted a bit to the left. I think the reason why they're doing R+3, R+5 samples is because of what I just said, which is that there are a lot of non-represented voters that Donald Trump seemingly is really good at activating. Why do you think he's like aligning with RFK Jr.? Why do you think he's got the Tulsi Gabbard weirdos and cranks? Like, these people don't have massive constituencies, like personally, but the podcaster vote, the podcaster, like right-wing crank guy who believes in conspiracies is like a person that's out there. I don't know how big those numbers will look like. I don't know how big those numbers will look like when push comes to shove. But that, I think, is the reason why pollsters are adding a little, bump to Donald Trump. The reason why Trump outperforms in the polls is very well understood. His base of support is non-college educated whites, which have always been tougher to poll than other groups. As the separation based on education continues to open up, the harder it is to poll. Remember, he gets low propensity white conservatives to turn out that don't vote for other people. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Exactly. That is the reason. Nate Silver is also trying to blame him being wrong in 2016 on 538 in their model as opposed to him. Yeah, I don't really place a lot of emphasis on Nate Silver's model or the way that he conducts his analysis. I don't really care. I'm simply more interested in the way that Americans actually vote. Vibes, okay? Vibes are not good. Let me tell you, the vibes and the momentum is not good right now, okay? It's not good. Donald Trump should not be getting a single. HasanAbi is way more of a Lichman guy. Yeah, dude, the 13 keys, baby. I'm a 13 keys guy. It's not that. They're using a baseline NPORS massive Pew poll taken from February to June this year that showed the national environment was R+2. That's the new baseline for their weight for the year. Normally, that's fine. This year, Biden dropped out, and they're still using that old data like it's right, driving me nuts. No one thinks, is this still right? I think it's perfectly valid for people to keep using that. Because of Donald Trump's performance historically. What is it that would make people who say this is just the same as Biden, who helped them win in 2020, make them randomly decide to just flip the switch and vote red? I don't think it's about turning those guys red. I think it's turning them out to vote again. And the Kamala Harris campaign is having a hard time with this. It could have had a much easier time. Bro literally ignores any comments about donors and speculates about why Dems are running to the right, acts like donors and moneyed interests don't exist and Dem candidates are just veering right because they think it's good tactics. You're right. I never talk about moneyed interest in politics. Thank you. Thank you, man. Is this your first time account created in 2012, like paying attention to politics? Is this your first time in the broadcast? Do you think you just came up with like a phenomenal perspective here? What's going on? Wow, dude. This right here is literally this right here is akin to being like, actually, I'll have you know, free healthcare is not literally free. Okay, smart guy. Thanks, dude. That's the reason though, man. You act surprised, but we all know why they move, right? Dog, I know what the reason is. I have literally talked so consistently about this. What are you talking about? What is one of the most common things I talk about with respect to Democrats consistently running to the center? Okay? I'm not talking to the Democratic Party. I'm talking to you. Right now, I'm making an argument as to why this is a stupid thing that they're doing. Okay? When I'm talking to you, voters, okay, or talking to you, just regular old people and not Democratic Party operatives, there's no reason to just consistently bring up that point over and over again. I know that already. You think I don't know that? I'm the guy that says that. What do you mean? Ridiculous. Why do I always tell you Democrats, even when they run on progressive policies, never actually conduct those progressive policies? Why? Wow, it's shocking that they just like said that they were going to do shit and then didn't end up doing it. I wonder why they didn't do that. Oh, perhaps it has something to do with the fact that both parties are still in the pocket for the same corporate interests, okay? That's why most of these corporations fund both of these parties, okay? Almost an exact 50-50 split, sometimes 49-51. Doesn't really matter ultimately. Do you think I'm oblivious to this reality? Got you with the progressive, my guys. You got fished, lol. Thank you. The Democratic Party themselves claims they're moving to the right to pick up voters. Proving that wrong is the point, at which point then people have to accept that they're corrupt. Thank you. If you know that, then why don't you platform third-party politics? I dare you to interview Jill Stein. I dare you. I'm scared of the Jill Stein momentum, the Green Party momentum. She will win if you vote for her. She can win. She will. If you vote for her, she will win. Okay? She's going to do it. Anyway, all right. But yeah, let's get to the really bad polls in terms of like Kamala Harris's historic momentum kind of falling apart. That was a direct quote for the Liz Warren campaign, which is about as competent and left-wing as Jill Stein's is. Okay, first of all, Elizabeth Warren is a little bit more competent than Jill Stein. Okay? Come on. I'm not exactly a big fan of Elizabeth Warren either, but like she's still a fucking senator, you know? like come on, dog. Now we're just saying shit. Okay, fair. When she was as competent when she was running for president, fair. Anyway, you're going to be an idiot when Jill Stein wins this state. You're going to look like an idiot when she wins this state. I'm not even kidding when I say this. I really hope that happens. Jill Storm owns your broke ass boy. That would be the funniest thing that's ever happened. And why not? You know?
Sure is. Okay, Rick, thanks very much.
The Jill Storm. All right, let's look at
the big debate.
New polls show change in Harris-Trump race in PA.
Is in the city of Philadelphia, which is in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Now, in a previous episode of CNN News Central, I circled Pennsylvania many, many times to emphasize just how important it could be in the election. Watching from home when I was doing that was CNN's senior data reporter, Harry Etten, who is standing right here to kind of put some meat on the bones, right, and do a better job than I did of just circling Pennsylvania.
I'm going to be additive. I couldn't do a better job. I'm just going to make the product you've made even better. So I just want to take a look at Pennsylvania, and what we see is a tightening race in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. All right, this is Harris versus Trump margin in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. A month ago, when you looked at the polls, New York Times +4 Harris, +3 Quinnipiac for Harris, Franklin and Marshall +3 for Harris. But look at polls that have come out over the last week or so, and what do we see? We see a much tighter race. We see a tie in the CBS YouGov poll. We see a tie in the CNN SSRS poll. And this, to me, is part of an emerging pattern, which is in a very pivotal state. What we saw was a small Harris lead, but within the margin of error, becoming a race that is way too close to call at this particular point, one that is even.
You say very pivotal the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania could be. How pivotal?
How pivotal. All right, so let's take a look at this particular map. This is with the betting favorites, but with Kamala Harris taking the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania over here. What do we see? We see that Kamala Harris wins in this particular case. Look at that, with exactly 270 electoral votes to Donald Trump's 268. All right, so Kamala Harris wins the Electoral College when she wins the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. But let's take Pennsylvania out of Kamala Harris's column and put him into Donald Trump's column. Again, with the betting favorites, with Trump taking Pennsylvania. What happens when we turn Pennsylvania red? Well, take a look here. Donald Trump wins in the Electoral College, 287 electoral votes to Kamala Harris's 251 electoral votes. So that is why I say it is pivotal. Yeah.
It is so important. It's worth adding letters, I will say.
It's worth adding letters. I can't even get it out. The bottom line is it is so important. This state is very, very important.
You important data people like to call it a tipping point state. It looks
Yes.
like Pennsylvania could be the tipping point state, which means the one state that will decide the election. Now, if it is in fact the tipping point state, is there any elected official in Pennsylvania who may have been on a ticket that might have made a difference?
Well, this was the great question when Kamala Harris was making her VP selection. Who should she select? And of course, folks like myself thought that she should take Josh Shapiro, of course, as the governor of the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Why? Because his approval rating is 59%. And the bottom line is, if Kamala Harris loses in the state of Pennsylvania, and that is the tipping point state, as Mr. Berman put it, the state that put Donald Trump over the top in the Electoral College, there are going to be some real questions as to whether Kamala Harris should have chosen Josh Shapiro, given how popular he is in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Could she have been a winner if she had chosen him instead of Tim Walz? We don't know the answer to that question. We don't know who's going to win the state of Pennsylvania.
I was just about to say, Harry Anton was so deep in the pocket for Josh Shapiro. So deep in the pocket for Josh Shapiro. They will look at these polls and consistently refuse to learn the right lessons. Okay. Really good stuff overall. They're like, no, dog. No. It's because you didn't choose Josh Shapiro. For sure, man. For sure. No, for sure.
But it's certainly a question that at this particular moment, with the Pennsylvania polls getting tighter and tighter and tighter, that I'm certainly asking, John.
Harry Ann, great to see you, as
Pivotal.
always. Pivotal to see you this morning.
No, I'm sorry. We are now officially changing it to pivotable because we're going with that. Thank you, gentlemen. Let's talk about all of this and how pivotable it all is. Joining us right now, CNN senior political analyst and senior editor with The Atlantic, Ron Brownstein. It's good to see you, Ron. Okay, Ron, you coined the phrase the blue wall. Recently, you were writing more about the history of the blue wall, how Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin have voted the same way in every presidential election since 1980, save one. That suggests what, though, Ron, this time around?
Yeah, I mean, it is striking. I mean, these are states that are demographically and economically similar. And as you know, they voted the same way in every presidential election since 80, except one. They've even voted the same way in every gubernatorial election since 1994, except one. They tend to move together. That's the history. But as you're noting, we're seeing something of a different pattern potentially this year. If you look at the totality of the recent polling, the CBS poll yesterday, the Say 24 YouGov project, and the CNN polls last week, I think you look at them all together, they suggest that Harris is opening kind of, sort of, a little bit of space in Michigan and Wisconsin, which means, as you've been discussing, if she can add Pennsylvania, she gets to exactly 270. Pennsylvania looks tougher. By the way, looking at this even more narrowly, Pennsylvania and Michigan have voted the same way in every election since 1940, except for one in 1976 when Michigan went with favorite son Gerald Ford and Pennsylvania went with Jimmy Carter. So for them to separate, obviously history, prior results is no guarantee of future performance, but for them to separate would be a striking deviation from our history over really the last 80 years.
It is really fascinating. And Axios, kind of summing up the polling trends of recent, Axios put it this way this morning, which I loved, kind of speaking to all American voters. You live in a toss-up nation where every election brings coin toss close fights to run American government. I mean, is that just what you add it all up to and what we see now?
Well, it's really kind of a striking dynamic in that I was recently talking to Karl Rove, and he was reminiscing about how many states, as recently as the 2000 election, they were playing in, either on offense or on defense. Places like Tennessee or Kentucky that we no longer consider, or West Virginia even, part of the dialogue. What's happened is that the number of swing states has dwindled to 6 or 7. But those states themselves have become hyper competitive. I mean, they are swing states because they are balanced, on the edge of a knife. So what you're talking about is a couple 100,000 people in really 6 or 7 states choosing the direction for a nation of 330 million. And we see some
Good system, dude. I love that.
pretty similar patterns, whether we're talking about the national polling or the swing state polling, where Harris, like Biden, is running pretty close to what Biden got in his winning number in 2020 among white voters, maybe a little below where he was among whites without a college degree, maybe a little above where he was among whites with a college degree, and netting out to about the same place. But despite her gains, she is still not equaling what Democrats usually get among non-white voters and young voters. And that in many ways looks like her challenge and her task in the remaining weeks of the campaign.
Let me ask you this, Ron. Dana and I were just talking about it. I want to get your take on this. Voters continue to say that they want to know more about Kamala Harris's policy positions.
Yeah.
The Harris campaign has added an issues tab on the campaign website. But I wonder what you think about this perception from voters. And I'm wondering what her campaign thinks about it as well, and if they are okay with that perception.
Well, first of all, I think we basically know what a Kamala Harris presidency would focus on, because there is kind of a communal bottom-up agenda from the Democratic Party really at all levels. I mean, if you look at the pieces of the Build Back Better bill that passed the House in 2021 and were stripped out in the Senate by Manchin and Sinema, that's pretty much a presidential agenda. Child tax credit, increased child care help, health, more prescription drug support, gun control. I mean, there's a broad agenda that's out there. But, voters are saying 30% in that poll in the New York Times, rising to 40% among Latino and Black voters, 50% of younger voters. They need to know more about her. It's not only her agenda, I think, it's who she is, who her values are, and whether they are comfortable with her as president. I think that's her big job on Tuesday night, more than making the case against Donald Trump, making the case for herself.
Interesting. Great to see you, Ron. Thank you so much.
New lies from Donald Trump about the 2020 election and new threats that have some election workers alarmed, promising to throw people in jail, he says, if he wins. Let's get right to CNN's Steve Conterno. This is part of the issues-only preparation the Trump team has been touting for the debate, no doubt.
That's sure, John. That's what we're getting out of the former president over the last few days. If you look at the last 4 years, he's spent so much time attacking the 2020 election. Well, now he is escalating his attacks on the 2024 election before it has even taken place. Over the weekend, he posted on Truth Social that if he were to win the election, he will, quote, prosecute to the fullest extent of the law the individuals that he believes cheated in this election. And in case you think he's just talking about the small amount of people cast ballots, he went on to say that it includes, quote, lawyers, political operatives, donors, and even election officials. He said they will be sought out, caught, and prosecuted at levels, quote, never seen before. Also this weekend, he continued his attacks on mail-in voting, saying that the FBI should investigate mail-in voting in Pennsylvania over unspecified claims about election fraud there. Notably, his campaign has been working very hard to get his own supporters to cast mail-in ballots, vote absentee, vote early, even as he continues to attack that method. And I'll also point out on Friday, I was attending an event with Trump with police in North Carolina, where he told the police there that they should get out and start looking for voter fraud now, saying they're afraid of the badge, they're afraid of you people. So obviously, this is coming just days before this key moment in this election where you're going to see these candidates debate, and Trump over the weekend talking a little bit about that as well. Take a listen to what he said about his upcoming debate.
We're run by stupid people. Stupid people. And we found that out at the debate with Joe. How did that work out? And we're going to find it out again on Tuesday night. Is anybody going to be watching? She's a defunder of police. You know, when somebody on the far left is in charge of defund the police for 12 years, and then they switched, 3 weeks ago or something.
Perhaps a preview there, John, of one of the lines of attack we can expect to see from Donald Trump this weekend. or excuse me, tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow. It's now 24 hours away or so. Steve Coturno, great to see you.
Joining us now is Adrian Fontes, Arizona's Secretary of State. Ms. Secretary, you're in charge of elections in a crucial swing state. It was crucial last time around. And in 2020, you oversaw the counting of ballots in Maricopa County, which is a critical part of the state. And we saw at that time protesters, some of them armed, were gathered outside for days. It's important to remind people this is what took place 4 years ago. When you see Donald Trump saying what he's saying over the weekend, how concerned are you about the safety of your election workers and the security of this upcoming election?
Well, first, thanks for having me. And this is concerning, particularly for all those folks out there whose integrity is being impugned. And they're not just Democrats, by the way, because it's Republicans and independents, libertarians, Greens. There's a whole host of folks of all political stripes who run our elections at the local and state level across the entirety of this nation. And really clear, these kinds are not political. They are tyrannical. They don't speak to the rule of law. What they speak to is one person's grievance. And it's unfortunate. I was on that same ballot in 2020. I lost my election fair and square, just like Mr. Trump did. But nobody in my camp was crying about skullduggery. We lost fair and square, and we won fair and square. And that's the way it works in America, and that's what good sportsmanship is about.
And by reading this correctly, at least one conservative group plans to monitor ballot drop-off sites in Arizona. Are you concerned that some voters are going to feel intimidated about dropping off their ballots if there are folks, hanging out outside those drop-off sites?
What I'm concerned with is the folks who've been spreading these lies and nonsense for years are now pretending like they're the cavalry to come in and fix things, like the arsonist calling 911 to put out the fire. It's a real problem when they're really shifting to pretend like they're on the inside, to pretend like they want to help folks. Voters can be assured, however, and let me be very clear about this, elections officials across Arizona and across the United States of America have been working really hard for a long time to continue to provide solid elections as we always have. And now with the added concerns of security because of the threats and the nonsense, we're working closely with law enforcement, the Department of Justice, the FBI, and et cetera. We've seen some prosecutions throughout the country for folks who are trying to interfere with our elections. But the thing we're really concerned about and making sure that
you're worried because you're going to do voter fraud. If you don't have anything to hide, Trump won't go after you. Yeah, you're right. Totally. Yeah, I'm going to do voter fraud in favor of Kamala Harris. Dog, at a certain point, you have to recognize that they're making up this issue, and they are making up this problem. So if they're making up this problem, how are they going to add a solution to this problem that they made up? Or rather, why are they making up this problem? When Donald Trump says he's going to go after political operatives for doing voter fraud, okay, and if there are no political operatives that are really doing voter fraud, as there's no evidence for this, and as a matter of fact, evidence only disproves this very commonly held idiotic sentiment that Republicans advance on a regular basis, then that means he's just going to go after anyone and everyone that didn't vote for him, people that he doesn't like, okay, which, he probably is. Most likely, I don't know, actually. It'll probably be like a Hillary Clinton style situation.
we're prepared for is the potential threats against voters and elections officials as we move into 2024. We are ready, we are concerned, but we're going to be careful and we're going to have a good election in 24.
And Mr. Secretary, I do want to ask you just to directly to respond to the former president, because and we could put this Truth Social back on screen if we still have it. He is talking about imprisoning election officials like yourself. If he says, you cheated or some other election official cheated in another state, obviously where he's coming up with this, we have no idea. He's making these baseless claims, unfounded claims. What's your response to that?
Well, if there is a quote unquote prosecution to the fullest extent of the law, then I say bring it, because there's no evidence. There's never been any evidence. Now, if he's saying a prosecution outside of the law, if he's saying that he's going to weaponize law enforcement and federal prosecution against local election officials, then we've got a very, very dark future to look at if that's what ends up manifesting. But the good news is this: really solid Americans with integrity are running our elections at every level in every state. And the American public needs to know your vote is safe, your vote is secure, it's going to get counted well, because the same types of systems across the country have continued to be run. We know there's no widespread fraud. There's never been any evidence of any wrongdoing. And so to folks who are out there making these claims, they need to look at the facts and not the fictions, and particularly not the grievances of one single person.
And you crafted an election, your office crafted an election procedures manual that sets limits on what actions and behavior are acceptable both inside and outside a polling place. Last month, a Superior Court judge ruled that you overstepped and that your guidelines suppress free speech. Did you have any response to that?
Well, my response has been consistent and clear. When the government tells you got to stand in line at a certain time in a certain place to exert your rights to peaceably assemble and vote, the First Amendment rights of some wacko screaming at you or carrying a gun around, those First Amendment rights aren't as protected. I think good citizens, good orderly elections happening the way they do in the vast majority of America will continue to happen. The extremists who have brought these lawsuits, like the Free Enterprise Club.
Arizona's so cooked, dog. That's crazy. It's called electioneering, okay? Free speech obviously has, free speech has always, in the United States of America, had certain restrictions, certain limitations. You, for example, cannot wear a political campaign's gear when you're going out to vote. In the United States of America, it is considered electioneering. It's illegal. Okay, you can't vote if you wear MAGA merch. So rules set in place, like for example, not being able to bring a gun to the polling station. It makes total sense. This is not a restriction that is inappropriate. This is not a James Earl Jones. I don't care. Sorry, I'm talking about politics right now. Yeah.
Need to understand that what they're doing is not just bad for democracy, it's bad for business, which I think is the height of irony.
All right, Adrian Fontes, Secretary of State of Arizona, you're going to be very busy in these coming weeks. We appreciate your time this morning. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, I want to bring back our panel. Karen Finney, your reaction to that about his state.
Yeah, look, there's a real intention around what they're saying, right? It is to try to scare people and intimidate people. In 2016, when I was traveling with Tim Kaine, in some North Carolina spots, we saw people standing there holding swastikas to intimidate black voters. So look, the point that the secretary made, people are not going to be intimidated. We're going to make sure that they have the information that they need to know their rights and to protect their right to vote and to protect them from anyone who is trying to stop them from that constitutional right. At the same time, this is another reason why we have to call out why Donald Trump is so dangerous. He's calling for that. In the same way he called for violence on January 6th. It's the same reason that you've got Mike Pence, John Bolton, people like that, Mark Milley saying, you can't trust this guy. This is not somebody who should ever be commander-in-chief again. So again, I think we should take it as a sign of this is who Donald Trump is, and this is why he shouldn't be returned to the White House.
Yeah, I mean, sure, Michael, and we could show the Truth Social again. I mean, one of the things that you have to wonder is whether or not we're covering this enough. I mean, that was sort of the thing that when I saw him put out this Truth Social post, if Kamala Harris were threatening election officials with jail time, what would be the reaction?
Well, look, my reaction would be the same regardless of the political party, is that we don't want to further heighten polarization that we're seeing in the country. Democracies across the globe are at an all-time low. We're seeing democracy struggle to maintain. We're seeing a heightened...
Every single one of these people will be defending Kamala Harris if she said that. Every single one. You want to know why? Because they're partisan. They're partisan hacks. That's precisely the reason why when the very same people that were shitting on Donald Trump for insane anti-immigrant sentiment, I disagree, Law. No, dude, we don't have to look any further than hearing what these guys have to say. I think this guy's a never Trump Republican, so functionally a Democrat now. But overall, every single commentator has literally gone from they're putting kids in cages to actually let's not talk about that at all, or immigrant crime is out of control, and the Democrats are the ones who are going to, the party to actually deal with it. That's it.
A number of populist, nationalist movements across the democratized world and globe. And we certainly don't want to see the continuation of that gem in the United States, particularly when the election is going to be so close and someone's going to win this thing and someone's going to lose. Yeah. And typically when you lose, you congratulate the victor and we come together as a country and then we battle it out in Congress, right? And we wait the next 4 years. And so my thoughts for the former president would be to just cut this out. You have some issues you can run on that are compelling to people.
And this is not the media bringing this up. He's bringing it up. He's doing
He's
it.
not going to cut it out.
The campaign,
and he's not going to cut it out, though.
Yeah,
but you
but
can say that all you
no,
want, but he's not going to. This is what it's going to be.
Karen, I understand that, but I should say he should cut it out because this isn't acceptable, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend that it is.
Liberals went from build the wall is racist to demanding that Kamala Harris build the wall, and Trump is stopping the wall from being built. So you need to understand that.
Is acceptable. And so I think we do have an obligation to say, yes, campaigns are difficult. Yes, you're going to fight it out. You're not going to like the other side. That's okay. But that's where the line is drawn. And so I would hope, Jim, that the campaign would try to reel this in a little bit and say, just stick to the issues.
Welcome back. And joining me now is independent Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont. Senator Sanders, welcome back to Meet the Press.
You made me.
Well, it's great to have you here. I do want to dive in by talking about the economy, likely to be one of the big topics at Tuesday night's debate. This week, of course, as you know, Vice President Kamala Harris.
Please speak on the invasion of the Balkans by the Ottomans. I don't know who this guy is, but he has so much aura and riz. This guy's awesome. I think he wants me to speak on the invasion of the this is a Balkan chatter. We got a Balkan Maoist in the chat who recognizes that the Balkans were better under Ottoman rule. That's what I think is going on here. Okay. To which I say, listen, chatter. At the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break. And regardless of where you're at, unless you're like in Bosnia, in which case you probably won't see ads, you're going to see 3 minutes of ads if you're not there. Yeah. So if you're not in Bosnia, then you need to subscribe for $6 or for free with a Twitch Prime by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account. Why are you so silent on the fall of the Mongol Khanate? I don't want to think about that, man. That makes me sad. It hurts deeply when I think about such sad realities, you know? The Golden Horde will rise once again. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. Turan now, Turan tomorrow, Turan forever.
Harris unveiled more of her economic policies, which included a 28% capital gains tax for top earners. It really marks a big break from President Biden, who has proposed a 40% tax on top earners. Of course, when you were running for president, you proposed a near 60% tax on top income earners. Do you believe that this particular policy position is a mistake by Vice President Harris?
Well, look, this is what I believe, Kristen. We live in a nation today that has more income and wealth inequality than has ever existed in the history of the United States. People on top, the billionaire class, doing phenomenally well. 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. Gap between the rich and the poor growing wider. What I believe is that we got to take on the greed of the billionaire class and say, yes, you know what, guys? When we got 600,000 people sleeping out on the streets, when people can't afford to send their kids to college, you know what? You are going to start paying your fair share of taxes. So I think dealing with the massive level of income and wealth inequality through a progressive tax system is exactly what we've got to do.
So do you believe that 28% is enough, or should she come up? Should she boost that number?
I would go higher than that. Look, when you got 3 people on top owning more wealth than the bottom half of American society, and when billionaires pay an effective tax rate lower than truck drivers or nurses, yeah, you could substantially raise taxes on the billionaire class and the people on top. But Kristen, it's not only the need for real progressive tax reform. What we have got to address is that while there have been important gains economically under President Biden and Vice President Harris, much more needs to be done. People cannot afford the high cost of health care. Elderly people can't afford dental care despite being on Medicare. So I think what the vice president needs is a strong agenda that speaks to working people, that says, you know what? At a time of so much inequality, we are on the side of working families, and we're prepared to take on the big money interests who today have so much political and economic power in our country.
Well, let me ask you about some of her ties to big business. Top Silicon Valley companies and big name venture capitalists have reportedly been in close communication with the Harris campaign. I'm talking about Mark Cuban, LinkedIn co-founder Reid Hoffman. From a practical standpoint, a lot of her supporters argue those ties might make sense. She's been accused of being too liberal, for example, by Republicans. Are you concerned at all about the ties to those big names, those top earners?
Dude, rich bastards hoarding wealth and complain the economy shit, make it make sense. Oh, I thought you were talking about Bernie for a second. I was like, come on, dude.
Well, Kristen, what you're really touching on is maybe the most important issue, and that is whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or independent, you should be concerned about the impact of the disastrous Supreme Court decision on Citizens United that today allows billionaires, whether they're Elon Musk and the Republicans or whether they are Democratic billionaires, to play a sized role in the political process. Look, you have one vote, the average American has one vote, but billionaires can start a super PAC and put hundreds of millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars into defeating the people they don't like and supporting the people they do like. That is not democracy. That is oligarchy. And I would hope that every American, regardless of your political persuasion, says we got to get rid of the Citizens United and return to a nation where one person has one vote, and that's democracy, not billionaires buying elections. If your question is, am I concerned about billionaire influence over the Democratic Party? I surely am, just as I am over the Republican Party.
Let me zoom out a little bit. You have described Vice President Kamala Harris as a progressive. She has previously supported Medicare for all. Now she does not. She's previously supported a ban on fracking. Now she does not. These, Senator, are ideas that you have campaigned on. Do you think that she is abandoning her progressive ideals?
No, I don't think she's abandoning her ideals. I think she's trying to be pragmatic and doing what she thinks is right in order to win the election.
This is like me having like a Nicholas J. Fuentes to Donald Trump moment almost. Obviously, you know, we're not monstrous pieces of shit nor fascist, but like watching Bernie Sanders say, oh, she's leaning on this stuff and going to the center because she wants to win votes is so stupid, because it cuts away at the major it cuts away at all the polling he's conducted. You know what I mean? Well, oh, okay, so you got to abandon popular progressive policies. Got it. Like, then why did you run for president? Like, oh, no, her principles are there. She just wants to be pragmatic and win elections. Yeah, that's the lie that the Democratic Party tells the liberals who watch media. That's the lie they told about you, Bernie.
My own view is slightly different. I think that in America today, there are a lot of people, rural people, working class people, who no longer believe that the United States Congress and government represents their interests, too dominated by big money interests. So I think that there is something wrong personally when we are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all.
Like, he shouldn't say the first half of that ever. He should literally be like, or if he's going to say that, he shouldn't use that as like, she's trying to be pragmatic. Okay. He should be like, this is the same exact problem that Democrats who are well-intentioned run into, where they think the broader electorate is actually less popular. I mean, the broader electorate is not genuinely demanding change, and that progressive policies are less popular than they actually are. You don't have to glaze her and be like, oh no, she's progressive, but she's like being pragmatic. Just say that they're doing the wrong thing.
Of our people, despite spending twice as much per capita. That is why I support Medicare for all. She does not. She has another.
Not only are you not a piece of shit like Fuentes, you also didn't make the mistake of idolizing Bernie to the point of abandoning your own ideals and analysis. Of course, I would never do that.
Approach toward moving toward universal health care. But again, I think on issues like expanding Medicare, by expanding Social Security and lifting the cap on taxable income that the rich put in so we can raise Social Security benefits, the need to raise the minimum wage from a starvation 7.25 minimum wage to a living wage. I think if you campaign on those issues, raising taxes on billionaires, you know what? She's going to win, and I think she could win big.
Well, let me just ask you then.
I don't think you're being fair to Bernie here. His job is to get Kamala elected and spread his economic ideals, and that's the only reason he's on the show. He's not going to disparage Democrats, even if he thinks that, because it counters his goal. No. Then he should never put out polling that shows that popular policies or progressive policies are popular, because that cuts away at the argument that the Democrats are making consistently. That is a direct question about whether or not Kamala Harris has abandoned her fucking principles. The answer to that should be to openly state what it is. Progressive policies are popular. Kamala Harris does not seem to think so, despite all of the evidence that points to the exact opposite of that reality. Here I have the evidence right in front of me. I conducted these fucking polls. I paid for these polls to be conducted. Here are some of the most popular policies. Kamala should run for those policies rather than against those policies.
Big picture, do you still consider Vice President Kamala Harris to be progressive, Senator?
I do. Look, she is not where I am. But I think, for example, when she talks about making the child tax.
Progressive policies are not very popular, hence why half the country is voting for a blood and soil fascist. Yeah, you're right. We should just do blood and soil fascism then, huh? No, you idiot. Things that actually materially improve people's lives, regardless of whether they're fascist or not, okay, are objectively popular even amongst those fascists. The goal is to run a good enough campaign that they forget about the blood and soil fascism and they go, well, at least this person can put more money in my pocket. That's the point. And also, if you do end up following through on those promises and you objectively improve people's material conditions, then they're less likely to be blood and soil fascists to begin with. What's so funny about what you're saying is that, like, Republicans love Bernie Sanders, okay? Republicans love Bernie Sanders. You know that, right? Like, most Republicans like Bernie Sanders or love Bernie Sanders. He is consistently the most popular politician. Not really? Yes, really. Look at his approval rating. Not a bad take. Oh my God. I think you are looking at this too simply. New Florida poll by UNFA rating, July 24, 27. Donald Trump, 49 to Kamala Harris, 42. Rick Scott, 47%. Debbie McCarsell-Powell, 43. Legalize recreational marijuana amendment, 64. Limit government interference with abortion amendment, 69. What's your theory for why Trump is running 10 plus points ahead of down ballot GOP who have his same positions? Charisma. That's it. In a lot of places where he's running 10 plus points ahead, by the way, the people that he has are awful. The people that he has are awful. Like, you're talking about the exploded troop guy in Nevada. You know what I mean? Like, never won a single race. Just like genuinely crazy. You got people like Carrie Lake, just a nut job, an objectively unpopular nut job. So how can you say that Bernie's one of the most How can you say that Bernie is one of the most popular politicians, yet bro can't even get past the primaries? Not saying I disagree. Yeah, it doesn't matter because the primaries are completely captive by the Democratic Party's most loyal fan base. That's it. It's the literal MSNBC watchers that go out and vote in the primaries. How many people do you know that voted in the primaries? I door knocked during the primaries. I'm gonna tell you right now, there were a shit ton of people who were like, I love Bernie. They just didn't even know a primary was happening. I think a lot of you forget, like, the primary process is, first and foremost, the primary process is not like legally bound regardless. Like, the Democratic Party has actually in the courts defended not Joe Biden. Something to consider there, right? Beyond that, I ran the top of the hour ad break already. Please shut the fuck up. When I say Bernie Sanders is one of the most popular politicians, I'm simply talking about his approval rating, chat. Like, I'm not pulling this out of my asshole. I'm just stating facts. I know that, like, liberals love to shit on Bernie Sanders, but that is the reality. I don't know why you're, like, arguing against that. Like, this doesn't mean across the board that all conservatives are in love with Bernie Sanders. I'm simply stating that in spite of everything else, Bernie Sanders is still one of the most popular politicians. Okay. His popular approval rating is at 54%. On the Democratic Party front, he's after Barack Obama, dude. Wait, who's number one then? Jimmy Carter? Oh, Bernie's not really popular with Republicans, but he's the most popular Democrat among Republicans. Yes. And that is in spite of, like, the unimaginable amounts of anti-Bernie, like, sentiment in mainstream media overall. Okay. Why is he not popular with Democrats? I'm interested in your take. He is popular with Democrats. He's popular with Democrats across the board as well. That's why he's number 4 on this list, chat. The only difference is he's popular with Democrats as well. He's just not popular with Democrats that go out and vote in the primaries, which is the backbone of the Democratic Party, the most loyal, most trusted, most reliable Democratic Party voters. That's why I kept repeating a very important fact about the uncommitted campaign. The uncommitted movement campaign was really important because those are lifelong team sport Dems that are voting in the primaries. Bernie's method of bringing out, similar to Donald Trump, bringing out people who normally don't vote is still untested in the general as it stands. I still believe that it would work. The problem is Bernie would never, or a Bernie style candidate would never be able to make it out the cut. They would never be able to make it out the primary. Does that make sense? And if you don't make it out the primary, and if you can't get to the general, then you can never test these. Then you can never test strategy. I guess Obama did it in 2008, so he did actually prove that method. But that's it.
Credit, permanent, and you know we did that in the American Rescue Plan. We lowered childhood poverty by 40%. Kristen, we should not have, as the richest country on earth, one of the highest rates of childhood poverty in the world. When she talks about building 3 million.
You know how the Dems always ratchet right? If it was reversed and the Dems had successfully run the country for a while, the Republicans would ratchet left? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely they would. Yes, they would. Yes, they would. Now, this doesn't mean that they still wouldn't be to the right of the Democratic Party. Of course they would be. But yeah, they would. Look at abortion. Look at abortion. Look at Obamacare. Look at Obamacare. Donald Trump ran on abolishing Obamacare. Where is it at now? Why doesn't he talk about it? It's not like it's abolished. Where's that at? Where's that energy for Obamacare?
In units of affordable housing, that's a big deal because we have a major housing crisis in America. You know, when she talks about passing the PRO Act to make it easier for workers to join unions, that's a big deal because we have to expand the union movement so the workers get decent wages. So yes, her views are not mine, but I do consider her progressive.
Senator, before I let you go, I do have to ask you about her recent endorsements by two people who are not progressives at all. Of course, I'm talking about.
This was the worst part, and we watched it already, and it cooked me.
About Dick and Liz Cheney this week. They said they're going to support her. They're going to vote.
We are just one day away from the ABC 2024 presidential debate, and Trump is aiming to define Kamala Harris's far left record. This as 28% of likely voters say when it comes to Harris, they need to learn more, compared to just 9% for Donald Trump. Here with.
That's not good for Trump. That's not good for Trump. That's the reason why when he got almost domed, people were so firmly committed. People were so firmly committed to their position on Trump that like it didn't even move the needle.
To help set all of this up, set up the stage, Fox News contributors Tammy Bruce and Charlie Hurt. Good morning to both of you.
Hi there.
Hi. Okay, Tammy. Good morning, Charlie.
Charlie Hurt looks like a buddy cop, like a alcoholic detective. So disheveled all the time. I don't know how. It's just. Am I wrong? Doesn't he just straight up look like a disheveled alcoholic detective who's just like always like, oh man, oh God, I'm getting too over the shit.
Tammy, I'll start with you. What does Donald Trump need to do to focus really on her background, her policies? Because clearly 1/3 of the American voters don't know what she stands for.
Yes, and I think that's key. And this is why you suddenly saw Kamala Harris put up some positions, which frankly also looked like word salads on her website. But he needs to focus on, as everyone is saying, and he understands the issues. That's why he's running. He's running because of the issues. But I think that it's.
So Trump voters are 100% set. Have you met a Trump voter? In 2020 and in 2016, the overwhelming majority of Trump voters were voting for Trump. The overwhelming majority of Biden voters and Hillary Clinton voters in 2016 alike, by basically the same reverse percentages, 60 to 30 broadly, okay, were voting against Trump. Trump voters are locked in, dude. They've been locked in. That's also partially the reason why Trump is outperforming his down ballot races. And the hope for the Republican Party is that those guys that, you know, don't know or give a fuck about senators or whatever, they go out to vote for Trump and then they just like tick all the Republican boxes when they're in the voting booth. That's the hope. Because we know what happened when he wasn't on the voting booth, when he wasn't on the ballot. 2022 is what happened when he wasn't on the ballot. At a time when the Republicans, all things considered, should have wiped the floor, okay, in the midst of one of the worst inflation crises that like Americans had experienced in quite a while, when midterm elections are seen as like a poll for the performance of the sitting president, that red tide turned into a red puddle.
Transparency. What is her problem with not doing interviews, with not speaking about the issues? And like, as an example, with immigration on her website, it's the same kind of word salad and is claiming that the border is, there's fewer people coming over. And then she recommends amnesty, right? A path to citizenship. So it's the same thing people have heard. It's nothing new. And I think that he needs, and this is key, to remind people you can just look at what people have done, not what they say. And he has a history, she has one. And the problem for her is she's running from hers and he is running toward his. It's an easier position to be in. So it's about where he stands on the issues. What is he going to accomplish? She is not going to be able to compete with that.
Charlie, here are some of the flip-flops that she's going to have to address. She originally said she wanted to ban fracking, said that for years. Medicare for all, including illegals, a border wall, funding, decriminalization for everyone who crosses the border, and federal jobs guarantee. That was part of the Green New Deal. How does she pivot from these positions?
Damn, I hate that. Federal jobs guarantee, decriminalizing crossing the border, and refusing to do border wall funding, wanting to do Medicare for all, banning fracking. Oh, man. I'm not even joking. If she was running on this, okay, if she was running on these policies, she would be winning by like 10 points in every state. It would require her to also have a little bit more riz that she currently does not have. Negative, she would not. That's my answer. Y'all are running scared, dude. Nah, too many people worry about taxes in the economy. No, she wouldn't. Older people would hate that. Oh, man, that's crazy that you say that. Because that's the argument that the Democrats used to present about preserving and protecting Social Security. Because Republicans were about cutting Social Security. Now, of course, many of you are too young to remember that. And you only know a world where the Republicans are like, we're going to protect Social Security. The reason why you say that is because old people obviously like Social Security. Thank God for the Tea Party caucus that stopped Obama from actually cutting Social Security. Jill Stein getting clout in 2024 is the new barometer of how bad the Dems campaign strategy is. Yeah, low key.
And how does she explain that to the American people?
Yeah, I think it's going to be really difficult. And I agree with Tammy that it is going to end up coming down to credibility. Look, Donald Trump is probably the greatest political debater we've ever had in American history. He went through the 2016 primary and knocked out 18 Republicans. He managed to knock out a sitting president out of the race before the first ballot was cast in a debate. But I think that what will be sort of surprising to people is I think that Kamala Harris will end up actually doing better than people are anticipating because there's been so much hype about how bad she is with her word salads. But the problem is that as she will appear to do better during the debate. But the problem is that you're going to take whatever she says during the debate and compare it to all of those platforms that you just listed that she's already flipped on and compare the tape from tomorrow night to all the other things that she said in the past. And the problem with that is not only does it suggest that she has no idea where she is on the issues, the problem is that it reveals her willingness to say anything she has to say to get elected, and that goes to the heart of credibility, and nothing defines a politician like credibility, either losing it or having it.
And you're
and
right.
Trump has the credibility, and she does not.
You're right about, he ran the first time, I'm not a politician, and people like that because he's genuine. Right. We know where he stands.
Demonstrate.
No, you don't know where he stands. And no, him not being a politician and presenting himself as anti-establishment did work in the first time around, but he was the president for 4 years, you know?
Politician flip-flops, right? When they realize the American public doesn't like your old policies. All right, here's Bernie Sanders. This was over the weekend. And he was saying, no, she has not changed. She's still a progressive. She's just doing this to win. Listen to this.
I don't think she's abandoning her ideals. I think she's trying to be pragmatic and doing what she thinks is right in order to win the election. Her views are not mine, but I do consider her progressive.
All right, Tammy, your reaction.
Yes, well, he used the word ideals. She used the word values. And when she used that word values in that interview that she did for 16 minutes, that was a wink and a nod to the left flank. That was what I just said. Don't listen to what I say. Watch what I do. We were also told by this team that they were going to be the uniters, that they were going to bring things back to normal. Their normal is chaos. Their normal is a bad economy. Their normal is crime. Their normal is an open border. Their normal are world wars. We've seen it now, and they are making the mistake of underestimating the American people. And that's where that New York Times Siena poll indicates, is that the American people, want change. After all of this, they don't see her as the agent of change. They see Trump as that person.
Okay, Charlie, quick reaction.
I love the way he says that. He said that like he was helping her out, and he's actually absolutely destroying her credibility as he says it. But, he's won from this. Nobody has gained more from the Biden-Harris administration.
They look at what the media says about Trump and then simply repeat it and swap out Trump for Kamala. Is so frustrating to hear. I mean, the problem with a lot of this is that Kamala Harris could message against a lot of this stuff in terms of like the warmongering shit, but she leans into it. So this gives Trump a phenomenal opportunity to present himself as a peaceful dove. And many Americans think about, like, at the very least, many Americans think about all these wars that are going on as nuisances. And then if Trump is saying he's going to end them, and Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are presenting themselves as though they are going to continue them, okay, even if it's far more complicated than just like a phone call. With Israel, it's just a phone call. But with Russia, it's not. It's obviously far more difficult, and Donald Trump is not going to end it day one. They're just giving Donald Trump opportunities to present himself as more moderate on certain issues
than radicals like Bernie Sanders.
I'm sorry to say, but woman doesn't fit in ruling or in politics. The gamer. First of all, you're not sorry to say that, okay? You're not. I don't know why you said, I'm sorry to say. You literally are stupid. Like, there's no point. I don't know why you said, I'm sorry to say. I don't give a who and what their background is, like who's running, what their background is, okay? I care about what their opinions are, and I care about what their policies are. I care about what they're going to do. Are they going to help the American population? Or are they not going to help the working class? Okay? The gamer.
Sanders.
Yep. Thank you so much. I appreciate both of y'all being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
House, Jackie Heinrich is now questioning the press secretary.
Questions you would have to ask the campaign, and that is for them to speak to. And what I will say is, what I can say is that as far as contrast, the contrast can't be more clear. It couldn't be more clear. If you think about 4 years ago, America was reeling. It was reeling. In a once-in-a-generation pandemic, it was isolated from the world stage. Crime was up. The middle class was sidelined. We saw an insurrection on January 6th in 2021 that the former president led. And you think about today, where we are today, 3.5 years later, we're leading the strongest economy in the world. You hear the comeback stories in places like Milwaukee, to Dayton, to Scranton, Pennsylvania. And so we have done what people said we couldn't do, which is turn the economy around, turn the country around, be a leader on the world stage. And I think it's important for Americans to know and to be reminded where we were and where we are. And look.
Why are we watching Fox? I don't know if you know this, but like, it's one, the most popular news network in the country. Number two, every single Republican watches it. Number three, there's a debate tomorrow between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. So don't you think it's better to understand the Republican angle of attack? And also, number four, better content than liberals, So yeah.
And the president certainly agrees with her. He agrees with her, her leadership, her policy decisions. He agrees with her when it comes to making sure that, we need to make sure that we stop what Maganomics, right? When you think about the $4,000 tax hike on working Americans. You mentioned Project 2025.
I hate that, even that. Oh my God, Maganomics, because like there's a tax cut that's sunsetting for the middle class. Instead of working to increase the taxes on the top margins in the top tax bracket, they're like, we're gonna make the sunsetting tax cuts for the middle class permanent. I'm losing my mind, dude. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. No, she's talking about the tax cuts. When Donald Trump pushed for tax cuts in his massive, like Reagan-style tax cuts for the wealthy and corporations, lowering the corporate tax rate, lowering the top tax brackets rate, okay? He also, obviously, as one does, gave breadcrumbs to the working class, okay? She's also talking about the tariffs, but Joe Biden said he was going to do tariffs as well.
That's something Republicans support, is a radical idea. a radical policy agenda that's going to do more harm to the American people.
Trump has repeatedly disavowed it, distanced himself from it. I mean,
and I said Republicans. That's something that Republicans support.
So this is not anymore being cast as something that Trump embraces? You just get that straight.
I mean, look, you asked me a couple things. You asked me about the contrast, why she continues to make the contrast. You have to talk to the campaign on her strategy and how they're moving forward. I laid out for you the contrast could not be more clear.
Dude, the idea that like Donald Trump is not pro Project 2025 is so stupid. It's even dumber than like singling out Project 2025 as a unique thing for the Republican Party when it's not. It's just the Republican Party. What the f are we doing? Like, Project 2025 has already been implemented, okay? It's just an extension of like previous Republican Party projects that have been going on for decades at this point. I mean, it's fine to use it as like a tool to make people focus on what the Republicans want to do, but like, there is no difference. There's no difference between Project 2025 and what the Republican Party has been doing since Reagan, okay?
Where we were when we walked in.
No, I know the name recognition is powerful. That's why I get really mad. That's why I get really mad when the Republicans are like, oh, well, Trump disavowed it. It's like, shut the up, dude. Oh, Trump disavowed it. Yeah, all of a sudden the Heritage Foundation is not one of the most important think tanks. One of the most important think tanks for the Republican project across the board. Like, are we adults or are we just like going to behave like children? Do you not have any object permanence? What's wrong with you?
To this administration, when the president walked in to the administration where we are today. And that's because of this leadership of this administration, the Biden-Harris administration. Project 25 is something that Republicans, not going to speak to the president, the former president on this, but that Republicans are pushing. It's a radical idea. We're talking about...
Like, J.D. Vance is directly in the ass cheeks of the dudes who wrote it. It's the Heritage Foundation. What are we talking about, man? It's more Republican Party than, like, random Republican politicians are. I care more about what the Heritage Foundation is presenting as the future for the Republican Party than whatever every Republican says. Every single Republican that is currently in office could be like, I hate the Project 2025. I don't know what that is. I never learned about it and I still wouldn't give a shit. Okay? That's the Heritage Foundation. They write the policies. What are we talking about? And with respect to Project 2025, while a lot of people have paid attention to it as a direct consequence of independent content creators, by the way, then it opens up Dems for an attack on their inaction. They're playing scared. Like, there's never a moment where I'm like, man, I'm going to take what a Republican politician or any politician really says at face value. That's why when people were like really hopped up on the Kamala train, when people were just like going off the coconut tree, going Mamala now, Mamala forever, I kept repeating, like, I haven't seen enough yet. I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. There's some promising movements in the direction of responding to public pressure here from the Democratic Party that is unprecedented. Having said that, you know, I know how the Democrats operate. Turns out, yeah, they are going to run scared, and they have been, and they're facing the consequences of that right now. And it doesn't seem like they're going to change trajectory. Have you considered they're humans like the rest of us and you should give them the benefit of the doubt? Why do you have to be so divisive? You think politicians are humans like the rest of us? 19-month subscriber, he's memeing. There's no way. There's no way that you're being for real. I don't believe that. That's a good bait though, chatter.
More radical abortion bans, cuts to law enforcement, cuts to education, repealing Affordable Care Act, and repealing the Inflation Reduction Act, which, by the way, beats Big Pharma, which is something that many elected officials tried to do and couldn't get done. The Biden-Harris administration tried to get it done. That's what I can speak to, and that's just a reality. That's what's in that agenda. That's what Republicans are pushing, and that's what I can lay out for you.
To the campaign, but the campaign's not holding regular briefings. They don't have a forum, a Q&A forum like we have here.
I talked to them about that.
I
literally just answered your question on why the contrast could be more clear. I just answered your question.
It's crazy to me that the Democrats are literally like, no, you don't understand. The Republicans want to defund the police. You don't understand. The Republicans don't care about the American military being powerful. It's like, these are concepts that are spiritually right-wing, okay? Ideologically right-wing, spiritually right-wing. The right has always owned these policies, okay? You will not shake the way that the broader American electorate analyzes these policies. They're always going to, like, no one is going to the Democratic Party because they are going to be the real funders of the police. Okay? If people have this attitude where they're like, oh, we need to give more money to the police, then they're not going to be like, and I'm voting for the Democrats for that reason. If anything, you're maybe running defense. Some people might be fearful that the Democrats are not doing enough for the police, and that might be a cause for concern, but you're trying to give them assurances. But overall, no one is like, oh, I'm voting for the Democrats because they're the pro-police, pro-military, pro-patriotic party. That's not a thing, because the people that have those mindsets are reactionary, okay? And there is a much better, sexier alternative for them. The party that has been reactionary historically in their entire lifetime, okay? Oh, this is why I always say tacking to the right on immigration is such an idiotic thing. I've been saying it since Joe Biden unveiled his like massive right-wing proposal, his massive right-wing border bill, where I was like, this is the dumbest thing you could possibly do. What an idiotic thing. It's both bad politics and bad policy. How stupid can you get? You just destroyed any avenue of attack you could in terms of like saying how you're different than the Republicans on this issue. And not only did you do that, but you did that by capitulating to right-wing framing that like immigrants constitute a national security threat. Oh, historically bad.
Question about Project 25 and what it's trying to do and what Republicans are supporting. I just laid that out.
I don't think it was the question I asked, but I do appreciate the answer.
No, you asked me why the vice president's campaign, the Harris campaign, is not doing X, Y, and Z. I said to you, you gotta talk to the vice president's campaign, and there's the hat check. I gotta be mindful to that. You know that. That is, I can't answer that question.
How about I try one different way?
But I can talk to contrast. You asked me about contrast, and I just laid it out.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Does President Biden define Vice President Harris as a progressive Democrat?
Look, the vice president has been a critical partner to this president. All you got to do is look at the record and what we have been able to do in the past 3.5 years, the Biden-Harris administration has been able to do. You think about the economy, you think about health care, and you think about these really important generation-changing legislation that are now laws, obviously. I just talked about beating Big Pharma. That's important. That was the Inflation Reduction Act that only Democrats voted for. Now Republicans want to repeal. They want to take that away. Taking away lowering costs for the American people. And so...
Come on, go ahead. Be like, that was Trump's policy. Come on, Fox News. What are you doing? Say that that's Trump's policy. Come on, go ahead.
To be clear, lowering costs on medical care and pharmaceutical drugs and also energy bills, right? That's two really big part of the Inflation Reduction Act. The president is not going to be labeling the vice president. She has her policies that he's in line with.
A couple things that I'm always frustrated with, by the way, with like tacking to the center or the right for the Democrats is like, a lot of people talk about like wanting to win, okay, and gaining a defensive posture in every 4-year cycle. They're like, oh, the Democrats have to do this because they want to win, because they want to, they want to stop a Republican from gaining office. And then they tack to the right. And it's like, the question for you is, do you want that? Do you want a right-wing Democratic Party to run the country? Do you want the Democratic Party, which is supposed to be the other party in our duopoly that is at least somewhat different than the Republican Party, to be closer to the Republican Party's positions 4 years prior? Why did you vote for Joe Biden then? You should have just directly voted for Donald Trump. Do you not understand that? Do you not understand how frustrating this is? That I have to play this song and dance every election cycle as an actual leftist with no real representation in Congress? It's so frustrating. It's especially frustrating because it's not like my worldview is unpopular across the board. It's not. A lot of the policies that I would be championing are not like full-blown communism, socialism whatsoever. These are moderately increasing socialization in this country, moderately moving in the direction of a social democracy. Okay? I'm on board with that because that would genuinely do harm reduction. And when I advocate for these sorts of things that are unimaginably beneficial for the middle class, okay, the Democrats point to absolutely nothing and just simply say, no, they're not popular. You don't understand. We got to win these Republicans over to our side. It's like, no, they're voting for the Republicans already. I saw Hasan selling Fent under the passageway on Boulevard Avenue. Yeah, things have taken a dire turn in my career, where I have to basically sell fentanyl under the passageway on Boulevard Avenue. What is a Boulevard Avenue? I don't know, but yeah.
That she has put forth in the past week or so. He supports her. He believes in her leadership, and that's what I can share with you.
We are allowing for a contrast with Trump, but not a contrast with other Democrats. Because Senator Bernie Sanders, for instance, said that he still views her as a progressive Democrat. He said that she's, in fact, not abandoning her ideals, but making a pragmatic play toward the center to win the election. And that sends a chill down the spine of some people who might be in the middle or to the center right, considering her. And when she's been trying to position herself as a more moderate figure now than she was in 2020, where does she stand exactly?
So, first of all, the senator is going to speak for himself. That's for him to speak to. I'm not going to get into I agree or disagree with him. What I can tell you is this president believes in her leadership and believes in her bold policy.
Okay. All right.